Hello, my friends. Welcome to another celebrity chat. This week is with Millie Gormely, and we are back into the financial wellness world. You may remember way back, well, not so far back, which one was it? I don't remember. When we talked to Jamie Madigan, I think it was episode number 38 we talked a lot about insurance. This time we're talking about retiring. Maybe that would be pretty awesome at some point, right? So check out Millie and let me know what you think. Hope you have an amazing day. Hi, my friends. Welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and this is Heather, and I am super excited that you're here. You are going to hear some tips and some tricks and some ideas to help you live your happiest and healthiest self. I call it Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, back to me, then you can take better care of others, and we can all make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way, and I am super happy that you're here. Okay, awesome. It's like, oh, there's another button to press to get us going. So hello, everybody. It's Heather again. Yes, it's Heather again. It's just keep popping up in people's feeds, which is good for me. And this is our Friday. This is the Back to Me podcast, and this is our Friday edition, which has a super awesome person, super awesome celebrity. And it's true.
You're too kind.
No. It's totally true, because I think all of the people that I talk to are so interesting and have such amazing perspectives. I'm like, you are a celebrity in my world. So, today is Millie Gormely. Yay!
Yay!
See?
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that lovely introduction. I mean, I hope I live up to that on any level, really.
Well,
So,
you already have in my world. Yes, exactly. And we're going to talk, we're going to talk about all things wellness, but I feel like today we'll have a financial slant on our wellness, which is awesome because think about how much stress is in people's lives about finances, right? Even personally, I can send me waking up in the middle of the night going, crap, did I pay that bill?
Right. Okay, just the other week, I paid a bill, and instead of paying $173, I paid $713 and didn't realize that I'd done that until the next day. I'm like, can we swear? I won't swear, but I did in real life. I swore quite a lot. It's and there's so many ways you can cause yourself financial anxiety. Luckily, I could, cover it and not have a bunch of things bounce. Thank God for that.
Imagine.
But yeah, I mean, silly little mistakes can cause you stress in the moment, and there's mistakes that you can make that cause you a lot of stress in the long term. And that's what I try to avoid for my clients.
And I love I was trying to come up with the word earlier, and does raison d'etre work? Does that sound like?
Yeah, I guess, or mission, or
your
vision,
mission,
or whatever you want to call it.
Mission works.
Yeah, a goal, I guess.
What you're trying to do with your business. It was interesting. I was in a meeting this morning, and someone said, "Oh, as soon as someone tells me they're a financial planner, I stop listening." I'm like, "But you need those people."
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, traditionally, my industry has, like, I work specifically with women, and not only with women, but specifically as that's sort of my goal, my mission, my raison d'être is to make sure that my clients are calm and comfortable and confident about their financial lives. And traditionally, my industry has not done a great job of doing that for women. It's just like in medicine, where things are tested and tried out on male bodies, and women are assumed to be, almost like men, and we're really not. And that goes financially as well. Yeah,
they even do that with clothing. They just take, shoes and make them smaller and say they're for women. I'm like, but my foot's a different shape.
Completely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And my financial needs are probably a different shape, because I'm probably going to live longer and probably live a little differently. I don't know. What do you find is the difference?
Yeah, okay. There's a couple of things that pop up pretty quickly. For one, as you say, women tend to live longer than men. So the longer you live, the more money you're going to need feed yourself all that time. Women tend to spend less time in the workforce throughout the course of their lives. A lot of
Mhm.
time is because they step out to take care of children, and then later on in life, they often step out of the workforce to take care of other family members. So if they're, that sandwich generation concept where
Right.
women are taking care of children and they're taking care of their aging parents, there's only so much you can do. You step out of the workforce to do that. Um, Women tend to make less money as compared to men. The gender pay gap is still a thing,
Right. Ooh,
right?
we are opening a can of worms with that
Oh,
one. Don't
yeah,
even
well,
get
we
me
could.
started.
Mhm. Exactly. I mean, equal pay for work of equal value, yada, yada, yada. And not necessarily to be fair to the men or to be fair to men as opposed to be fair to the patriarchy, because we're not going to do that. But
No.
to be fair to men, often women do tend to gravitate towards careers that pay less overall. That's another question for a rant for another day,
Yeah.
but that
True.
is that is the fact of the matter, that traditionally female types of jobs, quote unquote, tend to be lower, less compensated. And women also tend to be a little bit too conservative, but more conservative than men are in their choice of investment. So
Right.
if you're someone who's really, you don't understand what the markets do, you don't understand how they work, and therefore you're afraid of what's going to happen and you don't want to take on any risk, then you invest in things that don't have as much potential for growth, and over the long run that can make a huge difference in the amount of money you have to work with. So that's
Right.
that's a factor as
It's like
well.
you've
So it's
got like a whole triple, quadruple whammy on you.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And women tend to not want to, and I mean, this is obviously not all women, but more women tend to not want to think about it too much. We do still have a tiny little bit, and hopefully not for, our generation or the ones coming up behind us, but certainly for parts of our generation and going back, like older women, there's still a tiny little bit of that. I just want a man to take care of me. Where's my Prince Charming come to rescue me? And there's, even though
I blame Disney.
it's not something we'd ever consciously say because we know how ridiculous that is. But
Right.
it's something that is a tiny little thing in the back of our mind. It's not right for me to worry about my own money. Someone else should be doing that for
But
me,
it's
you know?
interesting because when you think about like women, and I'm thinking of the generation like my grandmother, and
Mhm.
they, when stuff had to get done, that's who you went to. They didn't need
Yeah.
permission. But
Yeah.
that aspect of it was just like, maybe it was like, I don't want to know. I've got too much going on. We were talking about our email boxes earlier. There's too much stuff in them. I
Yeah.
can't think about that. Just someone just take care. It's almost like
Take care of it
we
for me.
almost, I'm going to say we delegated it to them.
Maybe.
And
Yeah.
and just because it's
And
going to
and
make me feel
traditionally
better.
the industry, yeah, that's where the industry's fault comes into play as well, because very traditionally, the advisor would meet with the husband and the wife, and the husband and the advisor would talk with each other, and the wife would bring tea and cookies, and there'd be a
Right.
lot of this, "Don't worry your pretty little head over it, the men will take care of this now." And some women went along with that. They were comfortable going along with that, and as long as everybody's alive and doing well and you're agreeing on everything, okay. But as soon as you split up or someone passes away, then it becomes a problem, because you end up in the position where you as a woman have this stuff and you're dealing with this person and you don't know what to do with it. You don't feel comfortable with that
You
person.
might not even know what you have
A
to
lot
have
of
the
cases,
conversation.
that's exactly what happens. Something like 77% of women in the year after they lose their husband, either to divorce or death, they will end up changing advisors because they don't have the relationship with the advisor that the husband does. And so they're
Right.
like, well, I'm going to find someone that I want to work with to help me understand all this stuff. So yeah, that's a problem with the industry, that whole patting you on the head and, don't worry about it. The boys will take care of everything. And frankly, at this stage of the game, at this point in life, and at this point in civilization, that pisses me off.
Maybe
There's
it's
no,
their version of hunter gatherer, right?
I
It's
guess
like,
to some
I need
degree.
to provide and protect you, so I'm gonna go
Yeah.
talk to the financial guy.
Not necessarily coming from a place of malice or a place of
No.
want to be in control. It's just it's felt like a natural thing for a lot of couples.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
You
I
know,
mean, and it is interesting. Like, even I'm thinking of my husband. We actually have separate financial, well, we know we have the same financial advisor now,
mm,
but we used to have separate financial advisors.
yeah,
And I just kind of evolved that way. And I do let him take care of a lot of things just because I'm like, I understand it. Obviously, I understand it. I mean, I used to be a CPA. I just don't
yeah.
have bandwidth for that right now. Can you just give me updates, regular quarterly updates or something? Like,
And that's totally fine. I'm not suggesting that every single person needs to be, reading the Wall Street Journal every day and having an in-depth understanding of what the market is doing at any given
that's why
moment.
we have you.
That's why I have a job. That's what I'm here for. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not watching the Bloomberg charts all day every day either, because I plan for the long term. And when I'm meeting with a client and we're setting up the investment part of things, because it's not just about the investments, and we'll get into all that. But when we're setting up the investment part of things, I want to make sure that my clients are invested in something where we can be comfortable with it, regardless what the market is doing on a given day. Because certainly these days, inflation's going up and interest rates are going up, and there's wars and
And
there's
it's a roller coaster on the
pandemics, and it's
market.
it's it's drama all the time. So,
It is.
and you can very easily make yourself crazy
The
watching the
market
news
should
every
go on
day.
one of those reality TV shows because, like, I'll check it once or twice a week. I'll go, "Holy crap," and then the next day I'll go, "Holy crap, what
For the
the"
complete opposite reason.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
"What are you guys doing out there? Quit it."
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, if we're talking about things like an RRSP or something that is designated to be used when you're old and gray and you're not old and gray yet, for the most part, there's really absolutely no reason to be looking at it every single day. You'll just make
Right.
yourself crazy. Look at your statements, get your quarterly statements. If you've got questions on them, call your advisor and get an explanation as to what's been going on. But the idea that we need to be on top of it so
We're
much.
not day traders.
We're not day traders, exactly. If you are a day trader and this is something that you're interested in doing and if you want to make this a hobby or kind of a part-time job, have at it, have fun, go nuts. But that's not everybody's cup of tea. That's not everybody's reality to have the time and the effort and the energy to put into doing that kind of research. You could get yourself into a lot more trouble by over analyzing and over trading and doing too much than by picking something that's got a good solid base of quality companies that you're invested in and then leaving it be. So I tend to deal with mostly mutual funds and ETFs,
Right, I
and
was gonna say ETFs I know are quite popular these days,
yeah.
and maybe people don't know what those are.
Okay. Well, an ETF that stands for Exchange Traded Fund. Oh Lord, my industry is so full of acronyms. It's nutty.
Because you have so
But
many words.
yeah, yeah, and I talk a lot and I talk fast. So ETFs stand for Exchange Traded Funds, and a sort of a traditional standard ETF is trying to track what we call an index. So the TSX, the Toronto Stock Exchange top 60, it's top 60 stocks. There will be an ETF that tracks the behavior of those stocks. And the idea is that it's passive investing, so that nobody's putzing around with it. Nobody is trying to make decisions. Nobody's trying to put in any guesswork as to what the market's going to do next. They're just letting the market do its thing under the premise that over the long run, markets go up. Like I've pulled out, I don't know if you're familiar with something called the index chart. It's probably my favorite thing, but it can be really
Is that the one that
overwhelming.
shows that no matter how many times it's gone down, it just keeps going up and up and up?
Eventually, over the long run, that's what will happen. Yep,
Right?
exactly. Yes, and it shows so many things. It shows what interest rates have done. It shows recessions. It shows who
Oh,
was in
cool.
political power at any given time. It shows, when things happen. So you can see when 9/11 happened that the market did a dip, and then in 2008 when the real estate market went kablooey, and
Kablooey is a good word.
yeah, another dip, and all those kinds of things. And it's just kind of fascinating to me to to go over that. But the general advice that I like to give people in general is don't freak out. You know,
Right.
don't freak out is like a cornerstone of my investment philosophy.
You need to be like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You open it, don't panic.
Yes, don't panic. Get your towel
Yeah,
and just
exactly.
just ride it out.
And I guess do you do I know that you're focused on women, but you must have couples as well, I'm imagining,
I do, yes.
getting
I'm Yeah, go ahead.
sorted. No, it's just like helping them kind of, because it is interesting, like navigating separately is not necessarily useful if
Yeah,
you're a couple.
if you're a couple, I think it really depends on the individual relationship. You know, there are some couples that are very much your money, my money, and then they'll have a pool of our money to do projects and household stuff with.
Hmm.
And then there's couples that put it all in one pot and sort it out. And then there's, hybrids of those kind of things. Like my husband and I, we got together and we were very young. I mean, like high school. So half of nothing is nothing. So we started
Right?
off and we
Just
put it
throw it
all in
all
one,
in.
throw it all in the big pot, and we'll sort it out as we go. And then for other couples, if you come into the relationship with a portfolio and a relationship with an advisor already established, well, maybe you want to keep that. I mean,
Right,
certainly it's absolutely valuable to have conversations as a couple as to what your goals are, couplely speaking.
right.
If you're going to buy a home together, if you're going to take vacations together, if you want to retire each at a certain time, having sort of planning conversations around that is absolutely very useful. Money is one of the biggest reasons that couples break up. So you to have an open and honest dialogue about how we see money is really important, because so many people have very different money styles. If you've got a saver married to a spender, there can be a lot of conflict unless you figure out who does what.
Been there, done that.
Mhm.
Exited. Yeah, and it's true, and if you don't have the conversations about all of those things around how you want your life to play out, um, like, money is only one aspect of it, you
Yep.
know? I'm I don't know if my mom will listen to this, mom, nothing not say anything bad about my mom, but I don't know even know if my mom has a will, and she won't talk
Yeah.
about it. I can't She seems to avoid the
Oh.
topic. Love you, mom, but
And I mean, not to lecture your mom, but mom, really?
but mom, come on.
Come on.
Maybe it's somewhere in a drawer and she just doesn't wanna look at it because she thinks she'll drop dead if she opens the drawer.
And that's I know, and that's sort of a very traditional kind of fear, and it's too bad, because not having those conversations before you need to is such a you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing a family a disservice. I got to tell you, so on the opposite side, when my husband's grandmother passed away, this is years and years ago. She passed away on a Saturday, and we all went to the funeral home on a Sunday morning, and we're sitting there, and the funeral director comes out and says, "Okay, this is what she wanted. Everything's laid out. It's all paid for. She wanted this casket, and she wanted this ceremony. She wanted these songs done, and it was done." And I
Cool.
could just yeah, and I could just see the stress and the tension lifting off my mother-in-law's shoulders. That was one of the greatest gifts that her mother gave her, was to just take that off her plate. There was no discussion about what she would have wanted, because there it was, black and white.
Yeah,
It's a lovely thing to do for
already
your family.
finished.
Already
Yeah.
done. Prearranging your funeral and then having a will in place will just save the people you love so much stress when they're already going through a horrible time.
Well, and trying to find documents and
Yeah,
who's your lawyer and
yeah,
how do
exactly.
where is this thing? And because I watch a lot of murder mystery shows, is this the most recent document? I don't know. Like, new wills coming out of the woodwork in murder shows, right? So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, most people don't need to have like umpty wills going
no,
on unless something changes in your life. So if you get married, if you have a kid, or if you are leaving things to people who then have more kids, there's ways to set it up so that you don't necessarily have to revamp your will every time. But certainly when there's been a major change in your life, taking a look at your will is not a bad idea. And
yeah,
and also beneficiary designations. So for instance, if you have an RSP, you have an insurance policy, or you have like a pension, anything kind of through work. Pensions
right.
through work, insurance policies through work, those will have beneficiaries on them. And I've run into it myself where, someone forgot about an old insurance policy that they had through their job, and then the ex-wife gets that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She thought bonus.
And she's not going to turn that down necessarily.
Absolutely not. Why
But
would
it
you?
what I wouldn't either, to be honest, in that position. But if that's not what you actually wanted to happen, it's on you as the owner of that, policy, or the person who's got that through his job, to make sure that everything is up to date on occasion.
So this was just occurring to me. I was just thinking over my life, even when
Mhm.
I had what I thought was no money, really, I probably had enough money. Um, you always think, "Oh, I don't have enough to talk to somebody," or,
Yeah.
"I don't have enough. I'm gonna work until I'm 120." I just saw the lady in Japan who's 119 just passed away. It's like, "Darn it,
Mm.
she almost made it 120." But, imagine if you did live up to 120, what kind of resources you would need. So,
Right?
I mean, I was having a conversation with my husband that we were talking about um, term life insurance and whole life insurance and catastrophic I don't remember what that's called.
Critical illness, I think.
That's it,
Yeah.
catastrophic insurance and do we need insurance? And well, it's a crapshoot because you don't know how long you're going to live insurance. It's
Well,
like,
that's the thing.
and
If
when do you start?
everybody
And when do you decide? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Insurance is one of those things that, well, planning in general, if you knew exactly how long you were going to live, planning would be easy. It's like,
so
okay,
easy.
here's the date. Let's work backward. I can spend this much this week and this much next week
Exactly.
because I'm gonna die X, right? But life does not work that way, and life does not work the way, like, no one's life runs as smoothly as a computer projection will make it look, and that's why you kind of want to revisit your plan on at least somewhat of a regular basis because things change, right? But as far as the insurance question goes, I like to put it as, would someone you love be financially inconvenienced by your passing? Is there debt that you would not want them to have to take on? Is
Right.
there something that you would want to leave for them to not have to go to work for a while because they are trying to recover from the loss of you? Are there children that you would want to support until they, are able to stand on their own 2 feet? Those kind of cases, then you need insurance, right? But there are certainly situations where, and forgive me, fellow insurance salespeople, but not everybody needs every kind of insurance all
Right.
the time. There are situations where selling someone an insurance policy is not doing them a favor.
Which is good to know.
Yeah, but that also depends on your individual situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, so and this is where talking to an actual professional, not just your brother-in-law. If your brother-in-law happens to be an insurance expert, more power to you. But most brothers-in-law aren't.
No.
So yeah, and
No.
so talking to someone who actually does insurance is a better way of getting a sense of whether or not you actually need the coverage and how much coverage you need. So for certainly for people just starting out, let's talk about sort of the stereotypical young couple. They've done school, they've got their first house, they may or may not have a kid on the way, like that sort of that young family kind of thing. You want to make sure that if you pass away, your mortgage is covered and that you've got something in place so that your spouse can survive while they're kind of figuring things out as a
Right.
bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
Clearing debt and leaving something for that. And you can go all the way up to really Cadillac plans where you pay for all your debts, you make sure you cover the wage that you would have brought in for the rest of your natural life. You make sure that you've got an extra lump sum set aside for the kids' education, an extra lump
That
sum
is
set
a
aside for
Cadillac.
weddings. Oh yeah, I mean you
I'd even
absolutely
call it
can
a
do that.
Bentley.
It's if you can afford the premiums, right?
Right?
The nice thing about getting yourself insured young is when you're young and healthy, that's when insurance is the cheapest.
Yeah.
Right?
Right?
As soon as you start getting old and decrepit like us
As
or
soon as
me.
something happens, I just remember that commercial, and they didn't even ask for a medical exam. You
Yeah,
Do you
well,
remember
maybe
those
they should.
commercials?
Yeah, I do, and they drive me a little nuts because you know what? Some coverage is better than no coverage, but there are certainly different grades of quality when it comes to life insurance coverage. Life insurance itself is fairly simple. You die, they pay. You'd think, right?
You would
But
think.
there are certain situations where, for instance, if you had a pre-existing condition that you did not disclose to the insurance company, essentially you lied on your insurance application, they could deny a claim, right?
Right. Even if
Especially
that's not what killed you?
even if that's not what you killed you. Yeah, there's usually a 2-year, so if you buy a policy and everything is put in place, the insurance company usually has a 2-year time period in which to uncover any kind of thing and cancel the policy, give you your money back, and say, we're done. We're not talking here. Um, but yeah, so you have to be careful about where you get your insurance from.
Right.
One of and this is probably going to get me in trouble with somebody, but one
I
of the
won't
things
tell.
that as we broadcast.
Right.
But one of my least favorite kinds of insurance is mortgage insurance. That's the
Oh,
coverage you get from your lender that just, when you're filling out your mortgage documentation and there's like umpty pages, just sign here and tick this and sign here and tick that, initial here, and and you're overwhelmed already and you're figuring out where you're going to move stuff to, and who's going to take care of the dog that day, and your mind is not really in a good place to actually think about what it is that you're agreeing to. So mortgage life insurance is coverage that it's not really for you, it's for the lender. It's covering the lender's behind. So the idea is that they own the policy and it covers you so that in the event of your death, the debt owing to that lender gets paid and you pay a premium for that.
I
Sounds
remember when I bought
right?
a house at one point, because I had an insurance guy at the time, and he said, "Don't get it through the bank because you don't get to decide where the money goes."
Exactly, because it's covering the mortgage. So you pay a
Right,
premium for that, and it's not terrible coverage in the sense that it's better than no coverage, but it's only just better than no coverage.
right.
Because what happens is you end up paying the same premium all the way through, but the benefit that you can get from that insurance is declining the whole time because you're paying off that
No
mortgage,
kidding.
right? So if you start off with a $500,000 mortgage and you pass away in 2 months, awesome. It pays off a $500,000 mortgage. But if you've been paying that mortgage for 20 some odd years and now you owe 5 grand, you've been paying that same premium all the way, but that mortgage insurance is only going to pay 5 grand.
Oh my god, what a
Yeah. And
scam.
it just, well, it's not a scam, but it's not,
But it
it's not
feels
great.
like
It
it's
feels,
if
yeah.
people sat down and calculated it, they wouldn't do it.
Well, exactly. But that's the thing, is that you're in a place where it's just one more thing on the list of umpty bazillion things that come up when you're buying a
Right,
house and you don't
right.
necessarily want to think about it. So having a separate insurance conversation with someone who can actually show you what insurance can do, what it is, and what you can get for the premium that you're paying is so important. And that's something you should probably do before you get the house. But I mean, I'm
And I just
realistic about
yeah,
things, right?
and I mean, if you're in a position like I just can remember, when is the best time to start saving is yesterday or 20 years ago.
Yep.
But often you feel like you don't have money, but if you are doing those kinds of like even if you're buying a home, you might feel like you have no money, but
Yeah.
you have you should have conversations with someone who understands how to structure things for you, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely,
help you build so that you have that
absolutely.
that us old folks savings in place.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not nearly as complicated as people
I don't know,
might
insurance
have you
feels to
think.
me like trying to buy a cell phone deal.
Yeah.
It's
I think cell phones are more complicated, but I've spent 20 years working in insurance, so
right?
right. But, yeah, I know it's a tough thing because I don't want to beat up on people for not having insurance. I mean, I do, but I'm not going to because it's not productive to do that. Uh,
Right.
I like to tell people you made the best decision you could with the information that you had at the time. So don't beat yourself up. But now we've got to fix this essentially, because if you and your husband buy a house together and neither of you have life insurance, what happens if one of you gets hit by a bus? Like, what
Right.
would happen? Would you have to sell the house? And
Which
then what would you do?
you've already got enough trauma going on. You don't want to have to lose your home,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Mm,
How do you replace that income? And if you have kids, what's going to happen as far as supporting them going forward? And you don't want to wait until a tragedy happens to think about these things. You want to think about these things before the tragedy happens.
right.
100%.
And I think that's true of everything. When I was in the hospital in October, one of my messages was, "Don't wait until you come out of the hospital to get healthy. Be healthy, and maybe you can avoid the hospital." be
Yeah.
healthy so that when you go to the hospital, you come out faster
Yeah.
in better
Yeah.
shape. Look after your financial health. I mean, I always talk about there's 6 aspects, I think, to wellness and like your whole sphere of the things that are going to keep you happy and healthy. And financial is a big one of them, right? Because
Sure.
there's somebody I listened to a podcast. He said, being rich is no big deal. I mean, he says, being rich is no big deal, but makes life a whole lot easier.
Yeah. Money doesn't buy happiness, but I'd rather be unhappy with a roof over my head than not.
And it's
It's
by
so many
happiness,
cliches.
but it will allow you to not wake up in the middle of the night because you can't pay your bills. It'll allow you to not, work 6 jobs to keep food, and it because you're not working 6 jobs, you can spend time doing things you like doing.
Money doesn't give you happiness. Money gives you choices. Money gives you
Ooh, that's
options.
good.
Money gives you security. Money gives you the ability to do other things and to help other people.
Right.
So yeah, so to look at health in the general sense and wellness in the general sense and say, oh, but we don't want to think about money. That's not who we are. Kumbaya. I think that's short-sighted.
It is.
Yeah, yeah, candles cost money too.
It is and I mean, I've listened to a lot of podcasts and a lot of conversations, and money mindset is a big thing. Maybe it's just my feed because, once you watch one cat video, you see all the cat videos.
Yeah,
So maybe I watched one once and that seems to be a lot of stuff in my feed, but we do have a lot of hangups
yeah,
about financials. It's like rude to discuss them. Um, I read
yeah,
I read the book "You Are a Badass at Making Money" by I was looking at my bookshelf by Jen
yeah.
Sincero,
I think I might
and
have
she
that one
said,
too.
yeah, she was so interesting. At one point, she said, talking about money is like as taboo as talking about sex. You're supposed to know all about it, and you're supposed to know how to be good at it, but you're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah,
So,
it's really weird, isn't it? And a lot of those money hangups are not things that we came up with ourselves. Those are generational. And
right.
certainly your background and the money story that you were taught as a child can affect how you handle money for 100%. So I often see with women who come from backgrounds that were difficult, that they really have this attitude about money that they're always worried about it. They're always anxious. There's never going to be enough. Sometimes we have to take a step back from that story and say, well, okay, well, what is this really saying? What it's really saying is that my grandmother came over from Europe after World War II. They had $60 in their pocket and they, worked on a farm until they could build up their own business. And they had it rough and they worked hard. And that's how it was. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean because they had it hard, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to have it hard. And if I'm not throwing hay bales and shoveling manure, that doesn't mean I'm not working.
But we
I've
have
got
that
my own
area we
issues.
have that background story playing in our head,
We do, and how we
right?
were raised and our attitudes toward money definitely come from someplace, and it might not necessarily even be that your parents specifically sat you down and said, "This is how we deal with money in this family," because a lot of times that conversation never happens,
No,
and
no.
it's just stuff that you
Except
pick
we
up.
can't afford that.
Yes, you can't have it, we don't have the money for that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. What do you think? It grows on trees? Uh,
Yeah, that's a classic. Or you
right?
see, yeah, the yogurt containers. Like, did your mom wash out and save yogurt containers?
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my god.
All right. I still wash out Ziploc bags.
Me
Now that's more
too.
of an environmental guilt thing than it is
Totally.
necessarily about money. But you pick up these things from your parents and you bring them forward. And so having that consciousness about, okay, I'm so worried about spending, I don't know, another 30 cents on the nice toilet paper. You got to step back a bit on
Yeah.
occasion and say, okay, what is this about? Why do I feel so anxious about it? Because you can make your decisions for whatever reason, right? If you decide that you want to buy the cheap toilet paper because it's cheaper because you'd rather spend that money someplace else, or because you feel bad about I shouldn't buy the nice one, I don't deserve that in some fashion, that's kind of a signal that you probably should take a step back and think.
Do
about
you help people
what
with that kind of like with your
yeah,
clients? Do you have those conversations about like
yeah,
what's driving you this feeling about whether you
yeah.
should have these things or not?
Because a lot of the clients that I work with are single women, and single women
Mm,
have that extra issue of there's no backup. If someone's going to take care of them, it's going to be them. I got to take care
right,
of me. And various insecurities and all that kind of thing contribute to that whole idea of I'm not capable, I'm worried I'm going to end up under a bridge like a common troll. And there's a lot of fear, right,
right,
associated with that. And so one of the things I want to do is to kind of first off just get clear about what your actual situation actually is. you
right,
know are you going to end up under a bridge? No, no, you're not, because you've got this X, Y, and Z, and you've got this pension plan, you've got your savings and all this, all the things, all the pieces. Put them on the table, lay them out, and say you're going to be okay, or you're going to be okay if we do this,
right,
right, and kind of get that set up. So once you get clear about what the actual situation is, then you can start getting calm and comfortable and confident about how to move forward. And your emotions are definitely a part of that. When I was working at the bank, it really shocked me how many people had tons of money sitting in bank accounts, not doing anything. They didn't necessarily need the money, but they're just kind of sitting on cash because A, they were afraid of the markets because they didn't understand them, or and B, they weren't spending the money because they were afraid they might need it at some unspecified date in the future.
right.
And I don't want any of my clients to die on a pile of money either. You know, you want to enjoy your life,
Yeah.
right? You want
If
to
why do you have it if you can't have some fun?
Right, exactly. You want to be able to live your life, and that's why it's always sort of it's a constant process of, okay, here's what we've got, here's what we're projecting that we're going to need, and adjusting things and moving the investments around a little bit, and tweaking the spending and how much are we going to take out of this, and where are we going to get the money to put into our TFSA this year, et cetera, so on and so forth. um, because yeah, it's not just about the saving is very important. At some point you turn around, you start thinking about the spending of it. And certainly when women start to hit their retirement years, and I'm starting to hate the word retirement just because the meaning of it has changed so much over the
I
years,
like
right?
what you were calling it when we were talking the other day, but I think was that one of your colleagues came up with that word?
Yes, I can't take credit for it. Kim Neeson came up with that. She's a life coach. She recently retired from her corporate job. She owned a company herself, and she's calling it rewirement.
I love that.
Right? And I love that
Rewirement.
too. So yeah, so we're working on a webinar together, and on that topic, that idea of when you come to the end of your normal working life, whenever that may be, you do have to kind of rewire your brain a little bit in order to actually enjoy that next phase of your life. So sometimes I'll sit a client down and say, okay, you're 55 years old, you're looking at retirement in 5 or 10 years. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
And right? And that's a question that kind of forces people to go, "What do you mean by that?" Because it's a huge change in your life. So you've been used to working really hard and putting money away and paying off your bills and scrimping and saving for the future. Well, now the future is kind of here, so how do we readjust
Can
that?
you actually shift to spending it? Like,
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
imagine
And
you've
some
been
people have
saving
a really hard
time
time.
off? Yeah, it would be hard. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
saving, saving, saving for the last, 50 years. You want me to spend it now?
Yeah. Well, what I might need it in the future. Honey, you're 79 years old. The future is now.
Right, it is the future.
It is the future. This is the future you were saving for. And I'm not saying, go out willy-nilly and let's buy a Lexus because it's there, right?
I wouldn't say that's probably in their personality anyways, if you're
Oh,
always been
man.
a saver, but
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I would have a conversation with a lovely older lady. She was my client when I was working at the bank, and she would come in and we would talk about things. And I noticed one winter her coat had a broken zipper on it, and I'm like, "Are you going to go buy a new coat?" "Oh no, I can't spend the money." Well, okay. And I'm looking at her portfolio going, you can spend the money. And I said, well, what do you mean? You can totally afford to buy a new coat. I mean, go buy a new coat. It's 30 below. I mean, come on, buy a coat. "Oh, no, no, I need to leave that money for my children." And I'm like, "Okay, your daughter the doctor and your son the engineer do not want you to go without a winter coat so they can have another couple of $100 in their pocket when you're gone." You know,
Right?
and but we
Wow.
get into this loop and we can't break out of it. So
You're the
I had to
exit
sit.
I see you as the exit sign. Exit here for your
Yeah.
life, for your fabulous life.
Exactly. I have kind of taken clients and sort of verbally shaken them and saying, "It's okay. Enjoy your life, please."
Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so I always find it fascinating because I still catch myself, I do all this, um, and I mean, I'm constantly trying to help. I mean, this whole podcast is to try and help people see where they could have a happier life, pretty
yeah,
much. It's like
yeah.
happier, healthier, whatever that is for you. And I still catch myself. I'm like, "Oh, did I just say that?" It's like, "No, I
We're
can't
all
have
human.
this. Oh, crap, but yes, I can have that if I want it. Do I
Yeah.
want it?" Is the next question.
Yes. Yeah, that whole question of do I want it or do I need it? And sometimes you don't need it, so therefore you kind of want to put it away. But sometimes you want something just because you want it. It's
Just because
finding
you
that
want it.
balance and it's that balance of reasonableness. Is it reasonable to want, a fancy coffee once a week? Yeah, it's totally reasonable to want that. Is it reasonable to want to buy an entire new wardrobe every year, right down to the shoes and purses and everything else and spend thousands and thousands of dollars. The,
I
the,
guess depends on your job.
yes, it depends. There's a lot of context, right? Which is
Right?
why getting your financial advice from a website or something cookie cutter online is going to
Oh,
miss out on a lot of nuances.
so
So
true.
having a third party to kind of sit down and have that conversation with you, like,
And
okay,
ask you the
and
questions
ask you the
and
question, you made $75,000 last year, you want to retire in 10 years, you don't have enough saved. Are we really going to be spending this money on this, or should we be putting that into something else?
right?
Have that
And
conversation about things.
probably a lot of people right now don't know how much they actually, unless they've sat down with someone, don't know what they're actually gonna need.
Yeah,
Even
exactly. I
if you're
mean,
just rolling the dice on how long you'll live, but
which we all are.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
well, if I plan to live till I'm 100, how much do I need? You know,
yeah,
and how do you do those calculations? And
yeah.
I know it's involved, which is why I hire professionals.
Yes. I mean, an online calculator can give you a raw number. They could say you need $1.5 million dollars in order to retire comfortably. Okay, sure. Where are you getting this from? I mean, there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of context that gets lost in a one number. And there's no one right number for everyone. And so when you're looking at news articles that say you need X amount to retire on, it's trying to be as broad as possible for every possible situation. And it's
Well,
just
and
not
if you think
nuanced enough.
even if it was an accurate number, if someone's told me you need $1.5 million, I might go, "What the" It's like, "How
Right?
do you expect me to come up with that?" Because then the stories start playing in your head.
Yeah.
What? Where do you think money grows on trees? Where am I supposed to come up with that? So
Yeah. There's a lot of managing expectations that goes around with that as well. I you know, the, um, the slogans and the commercials and the
you're
expectations.
richer than you think.
Yeah, the expectations that people have based on what they see in the media
I wanna sit in a
might.
bathtub on the beach holding hands.
Yeah, I'd like that
Is that a
too,
Viagra commercial? I can't remember.
or a Corona commercial, something like
One of those.
I mean, I'd like that too, and it might be possible for a week once a year, but
Right?
most people do not have the retirement lifestyle that the commercials make it look like everybody does all the time. Most people aren't flying their own planes. Most people aren't jetting off to Paris for the weekend.
They haven't won the Cash for Life lottery, which also
No.
I don't think is very realistic of how people would live
No.
even if they had that, so
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you get even anyone could get bored of Paris eventually.
eventually,
Theoretically, I
I'll give
suppose.
myself a few years to try it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of going all over the place and dancing around
Which
things.
is,
But
I told you this would happen.
yeah, you know what though? That's kind of how client conversations go too, right? You sit down with somebody and you talk, you brainstorm, you think about things, you think about your life, because it's not just about how many, a statement bottom line, how many dollars are in it, what your rate of return was, you were invested in, even what you paid in fees. Because if you're going to sit down with somebody, there's nothing happens for free.
Right?
Um,
And it
and you
shouldn't,
know
because you get what you pay for,
I believe so. I really
right?
do. The advice that I got when I was 18, to start putting away money every month was very good advice, and I paid for that over the years. I yeah, I mean, it's certainly a lot more possible now than it ever has been for people to manage their own investment portfolios. You can go online and set yourself up with a trading account and buy and sell stocks and mutual funds and ETFs. But like we were saying before, if you're going to do a really good job of it, you've got to put in the time and the effort and the energy to get educated and make those right decisions. And then there's all of the other pieces of a proper financial plan. There's an investment plan and then there's a financial plan. And they're not the same thing. The financial plan includes the investment plan. So you've got to think about, okay, your cash management, what's coming in, what's going out. Is there something we can be spending less on? How can we, reduce the amount of interest we're paying on debt? All those kind of pieces to tidy that up and make it the most efficient possible. When we're talking about efficiency, then we start talking about taxes. How can we reduce the amount of taxes that we pay? Basically, you want to be paying just enough that you're not going to get in trouble with CRA. You
Oh, the
don't need to be
tax man.
paying extra tax. There are no prizes for paying more tax than you should.
I thought it was
Uh,
hilarious when I used to fill out tax returns. At the bottom, it said, "If you have a refund, do you want to give that to the government?" And I'd go,
no,
as if.
no, you don't. Oh, don't
Never,
be.
never,
Oh,
never. I'm sorry, but I
no.
need that for myself.
Well, and so many people have extra taxes taken off their check, so they get a bigger refund at the end of the year. Yeah, I can see the logic of that on some levels if you're really terrible with handling your cash. But basically, what you've done is you've given the government an interest free loan of your money. Why
Right?
would you do that? Don't do that.
Never, don't do that.
Never do that. So, I mean, once we kind of get those things settled, and we're as efficient and as if you think of your family as an itty bitty corporation or an itty bitty business, we want to make that as profitable as possible. And then we could take those profits and invest them. Then we start looking at the investment plan. And then you
Cool.
start looking at the insurance piece as a way to protect all of that you've already built up so far, right? And then finally, you want to have an estate plan in place so that when you die, whatever little pile of money you still have left goes where you want it to go, and that you're not in a position where you end up giving the government more money than they deserve to have. So
Right.
that's what a whole financial plan is and does, and that's so much more than just buy this ETF or buy this mutual fund.
That's such a good summary, actually. I don't even know what to say now. It's like, wow, you put a little bow on top and everything.
I've been doing this a while.
No kidding. And I wanted to ask you, is there a date for your webinar yet? Because I would love to share it with everyone.
Yeah, right now we're looking at June, I think it's May the 26th. We've been kind of tossing the dates around back and forth. But at the present time, it's May the 26th. It'll be online. And if people have questions about that, send me an email. I can make sure that people are
Yeah.
updated on that too.
I mean, your contact information is all in the show notes, and
Awesome.
people are gonna be able to find you. And if you have the link, I'll add your webinar link on there too, so people can go and check it out, because I think it's important and I think it's fabulous. And I do know that if you can balance if your finances is what's freaking you out, it's going
Hmm.
to affect your emotional health. It's going to affect your relationships. It's going to affect possibly your physical health.
Sure.
Three of the other six, and if you just fix that one thing, all those other things will benefit, right? So,
Well, all of the pieces of your overall wellness fit together with each other. You can't ignore any one piece for very long, or it's going to come back to bite you. And
yeah,
finances is probably one of the simpler things to fix in a lot of ways because there's concrete steps you can take to improve your financial situation. Everybody can improve their financial situation to some degree. right? It's just how much and how dramatically and all that kind of stuff. And everybody's situation is different. So, I'm not going to say you need X number of dollars in order to retire, or, when you're retired, you need to withdraw at the rate of 4% or 5% or whatever, yardstick that is out there, because your situation is different. You are different. Your life is going to be different than your neighbors, and you need to plan for what you want your life to look like. And that's what I mean with a
Beautiful.
pro.
That's like, dun da da.
Leading the charge. I mean, I feel
Right?
pretty strongly about this, that people deserve to have comprehensive advice and people deserve to have customized advice to their situation.
And all of with the intention that people deserve to have a happy retirement, like a
And yeah,
happy
a happy
living
life.
life, like take that off of your stress list, right?
100%. Yeah.
That'd be so awesome. Awesome. So I was going to ask you if you had any last words. Hmm,
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help, right? If
true.
you're meeting with someone about your investments or about your insurance needs or about your financial plan in general, we're not here to judge you. And if you're getting a judgy vibe from an advisor, find another advisor. Like, talk to someone that you're comfortable with, because this is a relationship that you want to build over years so that they can give you the advice that's going to be best suited for you. So talk to more than one advisor when you're looking for help. And like, that's the main part of work for you as a person to do, is find someone that you're comfortable with and that you can trust, and then you've got something to build a relationship on.
Awesome. That's good advice too. Like,
Thanks.
get a second opinion.
Yeah.
And I say it about everything, all of my wellness things. It's okay to ask for help. You don't actually have to do it all by yourself, right?
Amen. Yeah.
And the and I mean, we're all here doing our best to help other people. So let us help you.
Yes, exactly. Please, that's what we're here
Let us
for.
help you.
We're here to help. It's okay.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much for taking some time with me, because
Well,
I know that
thank
you are looking after lots of clients, and I know that, time is precious. So I want to say thank you for spending time with me.
thank you so much for having me. I mean, I'm always grateful for an opportunity to talk to people about what I do, because I'm pretty passionate about it. I've been doing this a long time,
Obviously.
and you know, I want to help people. That's what I'm here for.
Exactly. All
So,
right. So, people, give Millie a call. All the information is above or below. I can't remember where it shows up. It's in there somewhere. Give it a click. Go and check her out. All
always
right,
happy to have a chat. Initial consultations are free of charge.
totally free. The
Totally
best
free.
deal in town.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Have an amazing day, okay?
Thanks, you too.
Take care, everybody. Hi, my friend. Thanks so much for listening to this entire podcast. If you found it useful and you're like me and you like helping others, please feel free to share this. Just give it a like, give it a comment. If you found something useful in it, there's a chance that someone else will find something useful as well. Also, if you have any questions at all, I can absolutely help, and I would love to help. You can email me at heather@prosperityflowcoaching.com. If you want more of this awesome content, you can follow me on Instagram, Heather Stewart Coaching. You can follow me on Facebook, Prosperity Flow Coaching. And I have a personal request. I want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. And if you could give me a review, hopefully a good one, if you could share, if you could send this out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope that you find your way to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend.